Good evening and welcome. We got ourselves a long game today. This was a 5 hour long game, ladies and gentlemen, 5 hours long. And I think I played pretty well on the whole, it seems. Only one inaccuracy according to Lee Chess 15 average centipoint loss, 95% accuracy. So it was apparently one of my better games. And my opponent did quite well too, 91% accuracy, but he had three mistakes. So, yeah. Yeah, no. He played well, but his end game was lacking, and this game will show the difference between 1900 and 2000 level in end games, something like that. All right, I'm black, and I've gone for this kind of solid structure. I've taken the solid option wherever I had a choice. Now here is when things started to get a little murky. I thought about fianchettoing. I worried a lot about capture, um, knight here, type of stuff like this. There were a lot of ideas in the air. There's also capture, knight takes, rook takes, queen check, winning a pawn. There was all sorts of stuff here. But ultimately, I went with this, and I decided if he captures here, I'll take it with the knight anyway. That way, I don't have to worry about any of these tactics. So he's playing a more humble line, and I've decided to also be pretty solid. And now here's the point where I typically struggle to figure out the move, right over here, because to me, in principle, it has always seemed kind of dumb to attack a piece that is so like there's no real pin. And I like my bishops, right? Bishop pair is good, but I've come to learn that in this type of position right here, especially when you have the fianchetto set up and the bishop doesn't have much scope anyway, uh, it is oftentimes maybe a better exchange for that knight, bishop for knight here. So anyway, I played it comfortable with the idea that if he attacks with h3, I would capture back and just hold pretty. Nice triangle in the center. But he goes a little spicy, little bit spicy, not really. I mean, it's totally fine. I guess it's a tiny inaccuracy here. Queen b3 would have been more on point. But we trade, and now there are slightly more accurate moves than the one I played. Like knight e4 is an idea, knight bd7 is an idea, pawn takes here is an idea. They're all valid points. But I went with knight here because, well, hey, look, this bishop's got a lovely long diagonal, and it's just a nuisance. And now he can't come here like he normally would be able to because I've got this fork. So the way I look at it, I'm trading knight for bishop, and that's pretty good. So that's why I played this. And now I started to just clatter the can a little bit. He has to take it with the queen, because if he takes it with the knight, then he would be losing a pawn. So I've disturbed his pawn structure. That was basically the essence of what I did right there. Okay, this is how I picked the timing on when to capture them, so that I would clatter his pawn structure and now fix them, fix that weakness. You don't want his doubled pawns to have an easy way to undouble and just exchange over here or whatever. So you want to suppress him, and when and because of this setup, the nature of this setup, he doesn't have a pawn break plan. He can't do a pawn break. If he had this pawn here, then he could think about pawn break. But islands, they can't pawn break. So this is the fundamental problem in his position. And he's a player that loves to squat in the middle. He likes to have his pieces in the action. He's a go-getter. Okay, fair. So we're just playing natural moves. Whenever I didn't quite know exactly what to do, I just tried to do something not weird. That was the motto I played by. I tried to think like what would be the not weird thing to do. So all of these feel pretty normal. Queen c5 is a little spicy, but it's also pretty decent. And Queen c7, it's that gentle kind of patient waiting move, I'm sure there are many other alternatives, but the point is to not rush into this kind of setup just yet, but rather to allow yourself time to build something. At least that's how I was thinking. A4 came. A4 was totally fine. It's not a huge deal. I think my opponent thought this was a inaccuracy, maybe a minor one, yeah. And we returned the favor anyway with A5. What we should have done was rook FD8 and A5, knight D5. Just simply twist off and allow the pawn to come. But I was worried that if he comes all the way here, then this pawn would become under pressure, and therefore this would become under pressure, and it would disturb my structure. So that was why I didn't want that. Anyway, A5 is also fine. But now his knight has come in with a very spicy move. Like this is like really is. It's like I'm wondering: is he planning to trade? Is he planning to go for this thing, which I would be very happy about, but also very surprised by? And I couldn't think of a great way to play this, so just did something basic. And right here, I decided to just attack the knight. And if he went back, I decided I'll just go back and hold the position and now wait to see if he repeats the move. That's what I was thinking. I was also running quite low on time, surprisingly. Spent a lot of time on those first few moves. But yeah, he chose a different pathway. And now I think it helped me to kind of not have to worry about the spawns. That frees up this rook. Earlier when the knight was here, I couldn't get my rook out because the pawn would be going. We trade off the queens, and he's coming in spicy with the rook. Now look, I've been patient this whole game with this knight sitting at my doorstep. You know, I could have played f6 at any moment, but you can't do a move like that without incurring risk because the e6 pawn becomes weak. But now with the queens off the board, we don't have to worry as much. The king can come in here and hold the fort down pretty easy. So it's time to kick him away and ask him also to decide, you know, where's he going to go? There are many different options, actually. So we're giving the player the opportunity to make an error. That's a principle of playing good chess, is to make it difficult for your opponent to find the right moves. Okay, so right now, for example, he's slowly making inaccuracies, tiny inaccuracies here, but this is a half point inaccuracy. The best move apparently is to just go back. This is slightly off. And now I should have just gone on with the swing, you know, b5, and start massaging these pawns forward eventually. But I decide to be more vigilant, I guess. Knight d5. I mean, look at it; it's beautiful, right in the center. This game is in control. I mean, it looks totally in control. Come out, and he takes off the knight. Also, yeah, he took off the knight, and now I have to decide: do I take it with the pawn or the rook? I was really tempted to take it with the pawn, and maybe I should have in retrospect even. But the rook also has a clear idea, you know, to just continue to put pressure down the line and rattle the cage whenever needed, get the bishop routed all the way here to attack if I really need that. It felt like everything could line up smoothly and easily without much complication. I thought bishop out here was kind of interesting, so I just did it. Now he made knight back, which I think was a little bit too out of character. That knight was doing fine here. Why did he have to move it? Ah, he saw a forking opportunity. He saw a forking opportunity, and in the process allowed us to actually just rattle the cage here. And now he can't take that, so he loses a pawn. He lost a pawn there cleanly, and now we're just holding it steady here. Both sides holding it steady. You want to be careful not to be too eager to trade. Okay, this is instructive. This king e7 is instructive. If you start trading over here, his king gets very activated, and your plus one pawn advantage probably won't matter because his king will manage to get here, his knight will get here, and they'll clip the pawn. Very likely something like that would happen, and the tables might even turn. The tables could even turn on you. You don't know. So You have to kind of hold the tension then in those situations. And now the same principle applied here. Do I take it with the rook or the pawn? It was really hard to say. I saw that if taking it with the rook, allowing him to trade, it kind of gets into this situation where it's knight versus bishop, and uh, there are a lot of pawns on the board, but they are on both sides of the board, so the bishop should be pretty okay. But still, if I look at it, I can't see how it would be easy to convert. So, in order to improve my perceived conversion odds, I took it with the pawn instead. Then after I saw this move, I was like, oh shit, this is like a pretty annoying knight, because now I get my rook here and his knight can go back there. And I would just end up shuffling back and forth. At least that's how I was thinking. But there was also another idea as rook here, allowing him to take the pawn, taking a check, and then winning this pawn. That could be the other approach. But it's a little bit fraught with danger because you might even get a further check after that, and it becomes a chaotic line. It becomes a very chaotic line, and I don't want to play chaotic lines. Yeah, I like to keep it clean and understandable. Otherwise, I'll go crazy calculating everything. So both sides are playing actually very accurate moves until this point. But f3 is where my opponent shows his lack of endgame understanding. Okay, you don't want to just move your pawns for. I mean, I know it's not just for the sake of it. He's keeping his pawns off a different square than my dark squared bishop. I get it, but it's not really needed at this stage. It's not really needed. There are probably better alternative ideas to play, or better options. F3 was intuitively it felt bad, and now I start to just get a bit of control. G4, another slip up in the pawns here. Just okay, yeah, they're not in dark squares, so they're not targets for my bishop. But don't you want to have a world where you can break this open and then undermine this pawn? You want that. And now we've got a very solid back end here. Solid bishop holding everything together. Rook ready to go. So the rook comes down now, because now we're changing our angle. We're planning to come here. He sees that. He doesn't react correctly. Actually, this is the first error. This is a pretty big error. You typically don't want to move your king back because, well, I can move my king up. But his whole plan was to somehow have his knight here holding everything together. Basically, having Spider Knight. He wanted to have Spider Knight. And yeah. Well, I had an idea that maybe I can try to take it and then take this pawn, but it runs some risk because his rook can also come back here, get a couple of pawns. That it becomes double-edged. It becomes a bit double-edged. So I wasn't sure about it, and now with him having committed to defending that pawn anyway, I thought I should move the rook somewhere else, and therefore I played rook b8, which is not the most accurate move. The most accurate move, and it came to me intuitively during the game, would be to do something like this. Like, intuitively, I just feel like that is the correct way to play in this position. But when I thought about it more, I just saw that it gives him an open file and makes the game again kind of double-edged sort of game, maybe, and a little bit complicated. Kind of complicated. You don't know. So the more open files there are, the more options there are, the more complex the game becomes and harder to play. So I didn't play the correct move there. I played a move which was a bit easier to play and understand and manage the complications of. And the idea was to basically just clear up something, get things moving on a bit. I've got the passed pawn. I should be good, right? And now here I make an error which was actually quite significant. You should always hesitate before taking back the pawn. Taking that pawn gives him the chance to come in. And now Of course, yeah, I know there's all of this and I can just hold it down probably, but uh yeah, but the point is there is opportunity for him here. So I decided to come back. And by the way, what I should have done instead of taking back the pawn was to first block the rook off with the bishop and then take the pawn. That's the little touch of patience that was needed here. All right. But instead, we get into this situation. And now, what do you think? Should he trade the rooks or keep the rooks on the board? He's a pawn down. What should you do? And the answer is you should trade rooks. And that's what he does. That's what he does. And he plays a good move here. And now we have the most critical move of the game because I'm a pawn up, right? I should be pressing for a win. I do have the edge. I do have the advantage. But there's only one move here that uh, keeps the advantage for black because in principle this position, the geometry of this position is such that it's drawable. The king's in a good spot, the knight's in a good spot, it's blockaded, it's the geometry works here. The knight's got this square, the pawn's got this square. There's something about it. And here's where I make a move which could have lost the game. I mean, not lost the game, could have drawn the game. Because now he can go and check me. And of course, if I come back, I think he simply comes back here again. So it becomes a repetition. Because if we don't repeat, then his king gets invasion here and here, and then you're definitely, I mean, at least still here. Maybe not all the way there because then there's some counterplay there. Anyhow, the move which saves the game is bishop d7, c7, because knight check is met by king moving here, allowing him to take the pawn. Going up here, king comes up there. We deflect the king away. He comes back here. We take the pawn, and then we rush the pawn all the way home. The subtle difference after having played this move is now knight check is met by this move uh, cleanly. I mean, now I can't play this move. Knight check, I can't play this move due to the fork. That's the reason why we have to move the bishop to c7 here. It's so subtle. This is how endgames are, and once again our opponent shows poor endgame judgment here. Really poor endgame judgment. He has to keep his pawns blocking me off, blocking my king off. That's what he's got going for him. He's got this awkward little thing, but pawn h4 is not good. He's got to go h3, lend support here, so that even if I attack it, you continue with this kind of stuff. Now there's probably going to come a time where this pawn will have to move, and yeah. So we get here. He comes with a check, goes back, and now we're sitting very comfortable right here. I mean, bishop got good control of the knight. Bishop can go anywhere all around. It's a full diamond court for this bishop right here. And in all squares, it dominates the knight all around. So he's got to move that pawn forward and capture, and now he's opened the gate for us. So we swoop in. He goes back. It's already starting to slip away. But we're not just going to make it easy for him. So we hold on to our shit, and now we take it comfortably. Just keep him under pressure, and I think here he resigned before this. I just played it on a little bit to show you what it would look like, but well, basically it's a loss for white because I have the extra pawns, and yeah. All right, good game. Hope you enjoyed that, and catch you later.